The proper communication with a spiritual father. A spiritual person who wants to help someone tries to unite him with Christ and not with himself. He will rejoice when he succeeds in uniting him with Christ. And when that person in turn begins struggling on his own to remain with Christ. In this case, both have their reward, and things are progressing as they should, on a regular basis. However, when the person struggles with the aim of pleasing the one who is trying to unite him with Christ, that is, whether his own given action will please or displease his helper, and does not look to see how Christ himself sees his action, then he pleases neither the person who helps him nor Christ, and he himself gains no benefit because he receives no divine help. In other words, neither Christ nor the spiritual father rejoices over what he is doing, while he himself is not helped in overcoming some difficulty. Let us suppose that a sister is chanting in church and is thinking, "I wonder, am I chanting well? Will the abbess be pleased with me?" With such thoughts, the person will not be helped, whereas if she chants for Christ, things will proceed accordingly. She will both chant well and please the abbess. Geronda, if someone does not understand correctly what was said by the spiritual father, is he at fault? Look, if he did not understand because he had some desire and his mind was there on the desire, then he is at fault. Some people make their desire to be the will of God. For example, someone seeks his spiritual father's advice on a problem, even though he himself already has a solution in mind that suits him. The spiritual father says what must be done, but the person understands that he was told to do what he already had in mind, and he does it joyfully, imagining also that he is doing it in obedience to the spiritual father. And if then the spiritual father asks, "Why did you act in this way?" he will respond, "Isn't this how you told me to act?" But there are times that one shouldn't take literally what a spiritual father says, as it could just be a figure of speech. I will tell you of a particular case just to give you the idea. A 45-year-old female teacher who was also a mother became involved with a 16-year-old student of hers. The boy left home and went to live with her. When his father came to my Kalevi and told me the story, I advised him to follow his spiritual father's advice. So the poor fellow went to his spiritual father and came back to me later. That day I had with me the exarchia of the patriarchate and was unable to discuss anything with him. I simply told him, "Do what your spiritual father tells you." He wouldn't leave, and unfortunately he didn't leave but insisted. At one point when I had a moment and saw him again, he told me, "Geronda, I have decided to kill that woman because that is what my spiritual father told me." Hold on here, my good man. What exactly did your spiritual father tell you? He told me, "That woman deserves to be killed." Do you understand? The spiritual father only as a figure of speech said, "The woman deserves to be killed." Not that she should be actually killed. From that time on, I never say to anyone, "Do whatever your spiritual father tells you," but rather I ask, "What did your spiritual father tell you to do?" Geronda, is it possible for someone to ask for help from a spiritual father and at the same time suggest a solution? Well, what kind of help is he asking for? It's one thing to humbly say to his spiritual father what he thinks will help him. It behoves him to say it, and quite another to insist that his thinking is correct. Then he can't progress spiritually. It's like going to the doctor and saying, "Give me this medicine." The patient is obligated to follow the doctor's directions. He himself can't prescribe what medicine he should be given. It's not a matter of appetite and taste as it is with food and pastries. When we can say, I prefer pie or biscuit, the doctor will prescribe the medicine according to the illness he diagnosed.